Welcome, everyone. My name is Larry Kaplan. I'm CEO of SDVI Corporation, and it's my pleasure today to have with me two well-known individuals in the industry. First is Simon Farnsworth. Simon is Chief Technology Officer of Broadcast Technology and Operations for Discovery. Welcome, Simon.
Thanks for inviting me.
And Bart Spriester. Bart is Vice President and General Manager of Content and Streaming Provider Solutions for Comcast Technology Solutions. Welcome, Bart.
Thanks, Larry.
Great. Thanks for you both taking the time. Simon, first for you. I think it's pretty well recognized that Discovery is perhaps the most advanced in terms of the use of a supply chain in the cloud. You guys started in production with your on-ramp project in June of 2016. I remember it well. And you've come a long way since then. And I think people really watch what you're doing because you just had so much experience and really so much great success. And I heard you say the other day that the fact that you have the supply chain that you do has changed the conversation within the company. And I thought that was a fascinating comment. You know, I think most of us who have had corporate experience are used to the 10%, you know, cut your expenses 10% in the budgeting process, but you don't have that. You have a different discussion. What is that discussion?
Well, I think what we managed to flip the finance conversation from the finance people opening a spreadsheet and looking at the bottom right-hand corner of the spreadsheet, which they tend to do, which is the big number, to we all start our conversations now with the finance folks about metrics. I.e., how much volume are we throwing through? What's the right reliability look like? And therefore, what's the cost so that we can really start delivering our KPIs? And we can very accurately forecast now how much this stuff's costing us. If major projects get thrown up, then we deal with it on a cost and say, listen, if you guys want to do this, it's going to cost this. Do you want to go ahead and do it? And then it's the question of yes or no. Whereas previously it would be, okay, we need to capitalize a load of servers, put them in there. We need a load of file transfer systems off the back of it. And we don't know what the return is going to be over 3 years or 5 years or whatever the finance organization decided to amortize that expenditure over. So it's managed to completely flip it.
So when you have a one of your clients, one of your inside marketing people or biz dev people, they come to you and they say, well, we want to do this. Do you actually have a iterative conversation about how they do it in the context of what it would cost?
Yeah.
Do you actually have those kind of conversations?
Yeah, wow. We do. We regularly do, and then we include those in the forecast, and we have a mechanism internally that reviews those with the business and with the finance folks. And there's a conversation, yes or no. In fact, I just had a conversation like that this afternoon, whether we said, okay, with the Discovery Plus rollout, we want to go into new territories. I probably won't say which because of obvious sort of SEC regulations. But it was like, it's going to cost this. Can we push the green light? And it was, yep, let's do it. And it's become a lot less emotional and much more binary in a certain sense, because it costs what it costs, and we can accurately predict that.
Oh, that's great. No, I think most people who don't have that capability are saying, wow, I need that. So that's very impressive. So Bart, Comcast Technology Solutions, you know, I'll speak for myself. I really wasn't completely aware of CTS. and by the asset, the number of assets you guys are dealing with, I would imagine that you are amongst, if not the largest service provider in the world. Your volumes are tremendous, and maybe you could take a minute and tell us a little bit about CTS.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we process over 66 million, I think, plus minutes of content per year. At least that's our 2020 numbers, with SLAs that represent, 4 nines or better for on-time performance and delivery. And of course, especially with 2020, it's a dynamic, ever-changing environment. And we do that for internal customers, at Comcast, and we do that for external customers. And out of that 66 kind of million minutes of assets that we delivered this year, some of that's kind of commercial VOD distribution stuff, mainly in the United States. And we do that for ADI, kind of cable labs distribution stuff, and then just, IP distribution, out to about 170 or so affiliates and growing, and a lot of those affiliates, as many people know in the industry, have their own unique set of requirements or metadata conditioning for the content providers, so we have that. And then for the internal aspects, we do about 6 million minutes or so for not only X1 internal customers, but for all the syndication partners, so Cox, Rogers, Shaw, and Videotron. So it's, I would say, a multi-tenant file-based processing environment, and of course at scale. And, all of those numbers there, still, doesn't include, any Sky assets. So it's quite a big, large-scale operation.
Yeah, no, I confess I just wasn't aware. It's enormous. So in some ways, Bart, I mean, you've certainly been in the cloud, but you're about to make a major acceleration, if you will, of moving your supply chains into the cloud. My guess is that you have some expectations about what that's going to do for you. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, for sure. We want to move into the cloud, and we want to move into the cloud using, in part, the SDVI stack, for flexibility and speed. And a lot of what Simon talked about there, frankly, I'm a little bit jealous of, and I would love to get to that point. But it's, we need to scale on demand, and we need to provide services to spin up and spin down, and we need it to be usage-based. And we need to remove, integration lead times for on-prem solutions to handle this type of load, up and down. And we need to remove, capital approval cycles and install and turn up and, deploying software slowly at all our data centers, and frankly, just reducing delivery time. And, we think there's a huge benefit to, moving this out into the public cloud infrastructure. So we think there's a lot, because of our scale and because of this, shift around of these huge volumes around, we need to take a lot of, friction out of the system. So the expectations are huge, at least on the operational side. And that doesn't even, cover, I would say, a lot of our financial expectations, which is a whole nother area.
No, it's great. It's great. No, it's exciting to be partnered with you guys. Simon, you are going to launch Discovery Plus in January. Is that right? Is that when you're actually launching it?
Jan 4th, yeah.
Yeah. So can you talk about how your supply chain infrastructure facilitated that launch? What was the and how was that part of the discussion?
Yeah, so I think I'd have been severely scratching my hair out if I had any hair left if we didn't have this in the cloud. They're twofold really, Larry. Firstly, traditionally in the way we made television programs, we left kind of 5 frames of black where the ad breaks would go, and that was the kind of trigger point for us to do that. And we wanted the best consumer experience for the premium product. So we were able to re-encode all of our 60,000 assets that sat in our supply chain to get rid of that 5 frames of black and recontribute that to the platform. So we were able to do all of that in our SDVI/AWS ecosystem. And then the second thing is, as you saw from the announcement, we actually bought some content from A&E. And thankfully, Dave Clee at A&E, who's an outstanding technology executive, agreed for us to build kind of an API layer between the SDVI Rally and SDVI Rally so we could seamlessly transfer content between the two. And that deal was signed on the 26th of November. By the end of the 28th, we'd delivered all 1,500 assets, including UHD. So had we not had that, we'd have been in a mess. We'd have had a load of kind of contract workers or freelancers manually sort of setting up file transfers and things like that. And it's a credit to the technology teams of Discovery led by Josh Darby and Dave Clee of A&E that we were able to do that. And it kind of showed us what really we were capable of, because we were all kind of stressing out going, how are we going to do this? And Josh came out, it's sorted, don't worry. Like, well, how have you done it? And I wrote this code and Dave wrote that code, and they were on the frenemies SDVI Slack channel, as he calls it, and they sorted it all out. So it played a huge role, and we'd have been in serious trouble if we didn't have it.
Oh, that's great. So Bart, you mentioned, I heard you mention Sky.
Correct.
So can you talk a little bit about your connection to Sky?
Well, they're one of the 3 companies, under Comcast Inc., of course. And, there's Comcast Cable, there's NBC, and there's Sky. And, we work pretty closely with them. And, they use a lot of the SDVI technology on the, I would say, contribution or generating the house MES capability. And we work pretty closely with them, sharing technology across many elements of the ecosystem, including, processing what I would say the distribution or the VOD files. So, as they continue to do processing for that, we want to share our tech and, share our cloud capabilities as well as, how we work and combine our efforts and metadata to kind of make one, unified system. So everything we can do to, get synergies, and to the extent that there's standards possible, we're going to do that, and we're going to leverage kind of the unique power of Comcast that we can to do standards-based processing.
No, that's great. That's great. So yeah, actually, both of you are amongst the early adopters, if you will, of connecting rally systems in the supply chain. Not just the supply chain within each of your companies, but a supply chain is really a connection amongst companies. So we think there's tremendous opportunities in providers of content and receivers of content connecting their rally systems. So you both are already ahead of the game in terms of working on that. That's great. So Simon, your some of the financial benefits you guys have derived are legend in the industry, and I've been with people who go, gee, how is that even possible? And maybe you could kind of summarize some of those things for us. I know I've heard you do that before, and maybe give us some context for the significance and what it's enabled you to do at Discovery.
Yeah, I suspect, albeit we haven't done the mathematical exercise in the last 12 months, but I would think that our cloud-based supply chain and subsequent downstream playout operations have probably saved us about $100 million. I think what it has done, as we, for example, I take an example of the Scripps acquisition that we did 2 years ago. I think initially we reported to the street that we were going to get $300 million of synergies out there. We ended up getting over $1 billion.
Wow.
And we were able to swallow the scripts and well, not entirely, but the majority of its operations probably within about 8 months of acquisition. And we could have gone quicker. But I'll blame the HR people for lagging behind in the paperwork. They'll probably slap me around the ear for that. But and then as we've looked out for broader acquisitions in the marketplace, we were able to sort of set a blueprint up. But I think also importantly, as we've looked at our global operations, we really now think about global operations. We historically, as kind of we went into new territories and new countries, we stood up kind of siloed operational teams who had often siloed tech stacks and siloed workflows. But we're able to really standardize that now, and we've got all of the producers working with us. And as we think about the international rollout of Discovery Plus, for example, all that content's in the cloud now and in the supply chain, and it's just a question of feeding it through to the platform. And the questions are about, okay, what more can we do about manually curating metadata to create better consumer experiences, rather than how are we going to make that work technically? It's just such a more straightforward conversation to be able to roll out these products, as well as we kind of talk about ubiquitous content now. Of once we've got content in our system, it doesn't matter where it goes. We can easily publish to our own and operated platforms. Direct to consumer can operate to a play out chain. We can in the future, and we may have conversations with Bart about linking our SDVI channels, because we supply a lot of content to our great affiliate Comcast. And it's just a much simpler conversation and much faster, because we realized that if we were going to survive and thrive in this industry, we need to be flexible and we need to be fast. And also what it's allowed us to do, if you look at our financials, is generate the same amount of AOIBDA whilst investing a truckload of money in new product. Had we not done that, I think our financial story to the street had been very, very different.
Wow, that's impressive. That's impressive.
Yeah.
So we change the subject a little bit, Bart. Our experience is that the closer you get to the cable industry, the more CapEx centric a company is, and there's good reasons for that. And you've embarked on a strategy that's certainly going to affect how you think about CapEx and OpEx. Can you comment about that? Did you have some internal selling to do on that subject?
I would say yes, but really for us, it's about matching revenue with cost. And with this approach and this system, we're able to do that. And in fact, I will tell you, to overcome, any of the internal hesitancy to move in this approach, to be honest with you, we followed Discovery's early guidance and came up with a few things. We studied our on-prem costs, and no surprise, it's like any big company, it's hard to really nail your on-prem costs, because there's allocated costs, it's just hard. And when we tried to compare, the hard cost, if you will, of going to a public cloud or putting, supply chain into the public cloud versus our on-prem, it was hard. And Discovery told us that. And but we did that exercise and we came up with some models, and we think we have a pretty good model, again, fashioned after some of the work Discovery did. And then we got the finance community comfortable with this switch between CapEx and OpEx. And then we had to get the engineering community comfortable with the mindset shift that you don't have to build everything, and that there's this concept of core versus context. And that in fact, some of the best systems at scale are usually composed of best in breed components. And we did that. And then, the finance community really, kind of circling back to them, matched onto this revenue versus cost, glomming onto that, linking that. And then we went again back to the finance community and said, hey, with this, we have full transparency, because now in the supply chain, we can make the best business decisions because we fully understand our cost, which is exactly what Simon said and kind of how you started out this whole discussion. In fact, what Simon was dealing with earlier today is this is the exact cost it takes, and it's a non-emotional discussion. And I can't wait to fully get to that spot. So once the finance community kind of understands that, in fact, we can bring that as, technology leaders to the organization. I think the CapEx versus OpEx discussion kind of floats away.
Great. No, that's really, I think a lot of people will be highly interested in the experience you just described. And our time is up. I'd like to express my appreciation for the time both of you have taken, and the comments, as always, are outstanding. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much.